Trustees for Wednesday, February 24th, 2021 at 3 p.m. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the Republic,
to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
also-
liberty
and justice for all.
For all.
Okay, will Secretary Treasurer Horowitz please call the roll?
President Eric Schultz,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Scott Horowitz, I am present. Trustee Edward J. Warner Jr., I believe, is going to be joining us around 4.
Yes.
Trustee William Pell IV,
Present.
Trustee Ann Welker.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so the first item on the agenda is Ann Welker has some people coming in from Surfriders Foundation. So you ready to go with that?
I believe we are. Jillian Camp, the Eastern Long Island coordinator for the Surfrider Foundation, is talking on behalf of Blue Water Task Force. Charles, is Jill on? Awesome, thank you. This is,
Hello.
Jill has a PowerPoint that she'd like to present about and have a discussion about an interactive sign project.
Okay.
Also, could Maura Diaz be led on too, Charles?
Yeah.
She's also with Surfrider and also would like to speak on behalf of the sign project.
I don't see her name.
Maura Diaz, M-A-R-A-D-I-A-S.
Oh, I see. Okay. She's coming in.
Got it?
Yeah. Sorry, Maura.
Hi, Maura. Hey, Jill.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Great.
You-
We're good to go.
Think so?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jillian Camp, and I am the chapter coordinator for the Eastern Long Island chapter of the Surfrider Foundation. And I have Maura Diaz here as well. We're going to tag team on this quick little presentation. Maura is our National Water Quality Coordinator for Surfrider Foundation. And I'm going to pop on my share screen
Do your thing.
quick, and then I'll get the PowerPoint rolling. Hopefully.
You can do it.
Oh no. My preferences are hanging me up.
Charles, if I send it to you, can you, what do you want to do, Jill? Because you sent.
You want to give her some time? Let Mr. Abramson jump ahead while she solves some of her problems?
Yeah, I have to log out of the meeting and log back in order to get it to work, unless Mara, you're able to pop it up.
I'm trying to see if I have it open here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually have it open. So do we want to just share from my screen? I can just hit share screen here.
Perfect.
Whatever
Yeah.
works.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Let's see.
That's
Share
all right.
screen.
No worries.
No problem.
Happy that you can figure it out.
Are you seeing my screen?
Mhm.
We are. Great.
Okay, let me get it on the, here we go. All right,
Perfect.
so Jill, you tell me and I'll forward.
All right, awesome. So again, my name is Jill Camp, and I'm the chapter coordinator with Surfrider Foundation Eastern Long Island. And we wanted to introduce and propose a signage proposal project that we've been working on in partnership with our Blue Water Task Force partners. Next. So who is Surfrider? So the Surfrider Foundation is a nonprofit grassroots organization dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of our world's ocean, waves, and beaches. The Surfrider Foundation has a national network. We now have 81 chapters in North America, as you can see by all the red dots. We are one of 81. And you can see all of our 10 regions there highlighted as well. So as you can see from this map, our chapter, the Eastern Long Island chapter, this is our turf. We pretty much cover, and when we say cover, our programs and campaigns cover us from East Quogue pretty much out to Montauk Point on both forks. And what we want to talk about today is our clean water program. So we have a volunteer water quality testing program, which if you're not familiar with or haven't heard from us in a while, we've been testing several. When I say several, it's over 60 now, as you can see by this map. We test weekly throughout the summer season, bi-weekly through the spring and fall, and then monthly through the winter months. And with the help of Peconic Baykeeper, who covers our westernmost sites, and the Concerned Citizens of Montauk covers us from East Hampton to Montauk Point, and then Surfrider sort of jumps in the middle. And we're able to cover over 60 sites on any given sampling day. So we were, pre-COVID, we were processing all of our samples at the Dr. Chris Gobler's lab at Stony Brook University. And once we shut down for COVID, we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase our own lab, which is housed at the Peconic Baykeeper now. And we're a self-contained processing operation now. So Mara's going to take it from here and introduce our signage project.
Thank you. Just to dive in a little bit deeper on what we're doing when we say we test these 60 sites across the East End, we're looking at basically our recreational waters. Where do people get in the water and have fun? Paddle, swim, shellfish, wade, surf. So we're looking at ocean and bay beaches and our harbors and our ponds, as well as some of the freshwater discharges that flow across the sand or get dumped by a pipe and into that ocean water. We test for Enterococcus bacteria. Enterococcus is an indicator that there's fecal pollution in the water. So Enterococcus are very prevalent in the guts of humans and warm-blooded animals. So when the Enterococcus levels in the water are high, there's very likely that there's human or animal waste in the water. The Enterococcus itself doesn't cause people to get sick, but it indicates that there could be other pathogens that are present in fecal pollution that could make people sick. This is the same bacteria that the Suffolk County Department of Health Services test during their seasonal beach monitoring program. Now, the Suffolk County tests only during the summer months, and they only test at official lifeguarded beaches. In Southampton and East Hampton, that likely means monthly for June, July, and August. They're testing our ocean beaches. Some of the bay beaches, they're testing maybe 5-6 times where they think that there have been problems in the past, so they just want to have a little bit more coverage, because they tend to put more of their effort further west where they know there's more problems, there's a lot of people in the water. So what we're trying to do is help provide even more information than what the county can do on their own. So we have more information here where people are getting in the water. Is it safe to swim, or are there pollution issues here that maybe we need to address? So all of our data is posted on our website. That's the address there. We share all of our results on social media, and we send out email alerts every time we test. As Jill said, during the summer, this is weekly. And then throughout the year, it's either every 2 weeks in the spring and fall, or monthly during the winter. If any of you would like to be on our email list, both Jill and my email is at the end of this presentation. And you can email us and get on that list. So where is this fecal pollution and other pollution coming from? It's our stormwater and road runoff, septics and cesspools, runoff from lawns, pet waste, waterfowl, and other wildlife. With the fecal pollution, the big concern is those pathogens that could make people sick and make the water unsafe for swimming. But also, as I think we all know, we're getting a lot of nutrients in our water as well. And this is, really causing havoc in our bays, in our harbors, in our ponds with these algae blooms. That's destroying the ecosystem as well as making it unsafe for people to be in the water, for our pets to be in the water. So if we look at the data we've been collecting, this is an example of the data over the last year of the past 12 months that we've collected at Sagmain Beach. This red line is an enterococcus count of 104 per 100 milliliters of seawater. That is the health standard that the county uses to make management decisions on whether a beach should be open or closed or a swim advisory should be issued. So we compare all of our data to that state criteria. At Sagmain, we collect water right out in the ocean in front of the lifeguard stand. And as you can see, it's almost always clean in the ocean. And this is similar for most of our ocean sites. They're almost always clean. There's very few exceptions to that. I think this 4%, and I can't even see it because it's blocked by everybody's beautiful face, but there's one high bacteria level that we measured towards the end of November last year. So 1 out of about 25 samples tested above that 104 count of enterococcus. Whereas in the pond, and here we collect samples basically where people would be most likely to wander into the pond if they're there at the beach, close to the beach. We collect our sample and nearly 40% of the samples there do exceed that health standard. So we think this is this perfect example of if people had the information in their hands on current water quality conditions, they could make good decisions on where they should get into the water and where they might want to avoid. If we look at our data for Mecox Bay, it's almost identical. Again, we're pulling a sample in the bay really close to the beach where people would most likely be having their kids run around or they're setting up for a day at the beach. And they're over 40% this past year. The bacteria levels exceeded that account of 104. And we didn't even pull one sample from the ocean that exceeded the health standard. So the water in the ocean was almost always clean. And even this one that's rubbing up against that yellow line, that's only a count of like 30, 35. That's still pretty low and pretty safe. Now we do have summary statistics for all the sites we test in Southampton and East Hampton. We put these together every year in an annual water quality report. If you go to Surfrider's website, it's easternli.surfrider.org, and you select what we do, you can pull up our Blue Water Task Force water quality program, and you can access all of our past water quality reports. This is the one we issued last year. We will do something similar again with our 2020 data to release early this coming summer. And here you can see any of the sites in this middle column that are red have a high bacteria level of 10% or higher. So there are a few sites that can have issues some years. But we really wanted to focus in on Mecox Bay, Flying Point, as well as Sag Pond, because these are sites where there's such dramatic differences between the two different bodies of water there, on one that's almost always clean, one that really seems to have some chronic issues. And there's tons of families and people getting in the water there. And we just really want to get this information into their hands. Let them know we're out there, we're testing. Here's what the most recent data is telling us. So we developed this sign with our partners. We have run this by the town of East Hampton. We've been working with the Department of Natural Resources there. They have some similar sites in East Hampton, Fresh Pond in Amagansett, where there's a creek. It's almost always got high bacteria levels, probably a similar 25, 35% high bacteria rates. And then you've got the Gardener's Bay, which is almost always clean. So we're going to post one of these signs there so families can know, hey, water here often isn't good. Water here is much better. So they can make that decision. We'd like to do something similar at Flying Point and Sagmain. We put these signs into Spanish and English so that we could reach a bigger audience. And they're only about the same size as the parking signs that are there now. So shouldn't be obstructing views or anything, but also be big enough to catch people's attention, hopefully. So this is just a mock-up. Jill, put an example of how big this sign would be out on the field. This is the one at Flying Point, and then this is potentially how it could look at Sagmain. Yeah, so basically that's what we have. I guess if anybody has any questions about what we test for, our water testing program, or these signs in particular, one thing I didn't mention is Surfrider does have funds to get the signs made. We envision making these in metal. Again, very similar to the parking signs. If you guys are willing and you want to get these posted, we'd love to work with you on where exactly they went and getting them posted, but we can cover the cost of making the signs. So I guess any questions, thoughts, next steps?
Well, I think the best thing to do is coordinate with the Parks and Recreation who manages those beaches. We can probably post them right down there.
Okay.
Half the signs would go to them, and Marine Maintenance could put up some of the rest on, in some of the ponds.
Okay, we can coordinate that. You're picturing them being at the beach entrances, Maura, and Jill, or where are you picturing them being placed?
I would think one by the entrance for sure. I'm not 100% sure what would be most protective to sort of catch people before they go into the pond. So I'd like to have that conversation. That's where we're more concerned.
Okay.
That can be sort of like to be determined if you all
Okay.
have a major preference. Or what we're doing in East Hampton, which might make sense here as well, is we're going to meet the staff from the Natural Resources Department down at the beach with the signs. Where do you want them? Where does it make most sense? And then figure it out. So maybe what makes sense is we reach out to, meet somebody in the field as well at the Parks Department. Would somebody be able to provide like a contact over there for us, the best person to get in touch with?
I can help with that because both of those are both Mecox and SAG are actually in my area.
Okay.
So I can help as we coordinate and collaborate
Perfect.
with that, certainly.
Sure. Kristen Doulos would be the person to contact.
Great.
Very good. Well, public education is key.
I think one other point too is there is an email contact address on the bottom of the signs. And I also think we'll be able to track on the back end of the Blue Water Task Force website if people are actually using it.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
We wanted to set this up as a pilot. Sort of, we've got 2 sites in Southampton, 2 in East Hampton. See what feedback we get from it, see how much interest we get. Somebody here in East Hampton suggested that we're going to get a lot of inquiries. So we want to start with these 4 sites and then reassess, like, did this work? Is it good? Is it overwhelming, or is it fine? And now maybe there's a few other sites we should post. So that's sort of our thoughts on the deal.
Good idea. Pilot sort of
Okay.
program.
Yep.
Exactly.
Great.
Cool.
I can add to your presentation. I believe you're going to need a sign permit from the town. The trustees would be listed as the property owner if they consent to that. I can send you the link for that information in the chat if you'd like.
Awesome. I would like. Thank you very much.
Okay. Great.
Thank
Well-
you, Jill. Thank you, Maura.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ron. We look forward to working with you this summer.
That's great. We'll be in touch then to coordinate so that we can set up a date to speak with Kristen Doulos.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so
Great.
much for the time.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Okay. Okay, let me, 1 second. Okay, so next item is Freshwater Fish Initiative with Bob Moser. Is Bob on?
He's coming in.
Okay.
Great. You're muted, Mr. Moser.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I have, it's sort of an interesting project a couple of projects I want to present to you guys. And it kind of segues into what we just heard from the surf riders folks. So I do need to connect with Jill to see if there is, some way we can work cooperatively together, or collaboratively, I should say. We'll be cooperative, I'm sure.
Mhm.
I just want to, before I start, I wanted to mention to you guys that when I first logged in at about, I don't know, 2:55, I could hear what you guys were saying, even though I wasn't admitted into the meeting. So not that you guys said anything, that was awkward, but I just wanted to let you know that that's what's going on.
Oh, we're aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we keep it clean.
Although I do want to correct you, Eric. It really isn't dry cleaner solvent in the Spionk plume. It's carbon tetrachloride, which we understand was used as a de-icer at Gabreski.
Oh, okay. Well, it has many uses. We had a carbon tetrachloride spill up at in Sag Harbor where they were using it as a degreaser for at Row
Sure.
Industries.
Sure, that was back in the day, before
Mhm.
Carbona was outlawed as a carcinogen. But anyway, that's another topic. Okay, so I have a presentation I also want to share. So I'm used to actually running these, but I guess somebody the tech side
You
of it,
may share.
access.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see it. Let's see.
Thanks, Charles.
Okay.
Doesn't change my pay grade.
Okay. I suppose, let's see. I don't know if you guys, if the video is blocking this, but maybe I can make this smaller. No. Okay, so I'm just calling it Five Ponds Environmental Investigation. It's the Five Ponds here in the western part of the town of Southampton. And for those of you who may not know me, my name is Bob Moser. And so who am I? Well, I have a master's degree from SUNY Oneonta in geology. I'm also an AIPG certified professional geologist. AIPG is the American Institute of Professional Geologists. So that although just recently New York State is now licensing geologists, this is a slightly different thing. I have over 30 years experience, if I include the Spionk solvent plume and all of this, conducting Superfund site investigations. So most of my work was done in the environmental consulting industry. So we worked for we mostly worked for the polluters and tried to work with the agencies to clean things up. I'd always had an interest in getting into education once I was when I was at Oneonta as a teacher there while I was doing my master's, but I didn't want to go into the classroom without some hands-on experience. So I ultimately, in my 50s, I decided to bail out of the environmental business and went into getting my permanent certification, which I got in 7 through 12 Earth and General Science. I had just recently had worked 16 years teaching Earth and General Science to middle schoolers at the William Floyd Middle School here down the road. Talk about a challenge. Trying to teach science to 7th graders is really something else. I had some pretty bad clients in my past, but those 12-year-olds, whoa. But since now, I've retired from teaching public school since 2019, and I continue to look for opportunities to work with kids and adults to share my passion for science, along with my hands-on experience in doing field investigations. Right now, I'm working with the homeschooled community over the last several months since the fall, working on a project that I had initiated doing with my students down at Floyd. It's something called Fish Tracker, and it's a project I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And I'm also working with Long Island Science Center, where we in fact, we just submitted a proposal yesterday to the LISMA organization that uses IMAP invasives as part of their program. And it's specifically targeting workshops to help people be able to identify spotted lanternfly, tree of heaven, and southern pine beetle in the field, and then use the IMAP invasives program to do that. Okay, so what is the purpose of what I'm trying to do? I'm hoping to educate a group of young workforce individuals in how to conduct an environmental investigation, specifically in 5 of our local freshwater ponds. And these include West Pond and Eastport, East Pond and Eastport, Mill Pond, Spionk, Beaver Dam, and I've just learned that it was Cook's Pond, West Hampton, Old Ice Pond and Quag. I was working with the Quag Wildlife there on the project as well. Okay, so the 2 investigations that I'm talking about here that I'd like I wanted to share this information with the town trustees. This was at Ann's recommendation that I share it with all of you guys to get some support and some feedback. The Fish Tracker project has to do with the homeschool students for the most part, but it could involve others. But also, I'm interested in taking it a little further and dealing with cyanobacteria and getting involved with the EPA regarding monitoring of cyanobacteria. And this is where this might tie into the surf riders' work as well. Okay, so what is Fish Tracker? Its sample kits were provided by Cornell University under an NSF grant. As I said before, I worked on this with the students at Floyd. And when I left Floyd, I reached out to them and said, look, I know that there are some homeschooled families that would be interested in continuing to do something like this. So they were on board with it. And so I was able to pursue that with them this last fall. So they provide the sample kits and the lab analysis. What we did was we collected samples at each of those 5 ponds this past fall. We went out and collected in October, November, and December. We spread it out. We didn't spread it out on purpose. It just had to do with timing of being able to get out there. Okay, so we went out together. The parents were there. I was there for oversight. The project started with a Zoom session with the families and the students, so that I could explain to them what invasive species of fish are, the sampling procedures, and then we followed up that with a meeting in the field where we actually collected and processed the samples. All of the protocols, the preservation, shipping was provided under the guidance of documents provided by Cornell University. Now, keep in mind, this is not Cornell Cooperative, it's Cornell University. They are funded by NSF for this particular project. Okay. All the water samples we collected were from the ponds using publicly accessible properties. We didn't cross any private property. At this point, I don't have any private property owners that I've been able to contact to allow us to get access there. Right now, we don't have any of the results back. Cornell's labs have been sort of slow in getting back up to speed on this project because they're overwhelmed with the whole COVID thing and the students that they're obviously trying to serve. Okay, so the invasives that they're specifically looking for are the northern snakehead, Asian carp, round goby, the sea lamprey, white perch, Asian, the Asian eel, and tench. So those are the 7 that they're specifically looking for in their analysis. Here's just some pictures of us out sampling. We had some really nice weather, even though it was late October and into November. Here we are sampling along the bridgeway there in Eastport. Kids are collecting the samples by dunking a bucket. The kids all had to use a handheld GPS, which I have, to locate our sampling sites. It was important for the Cornell folks to know exactly where we collected these samples. Here we are processing samples, and a student putting this sample. It's actually just taking a filter where you've processed the water through the filter, and you're putting that into a sample jar that has a preservative in it. And so that gets shipped off to Cornell. Okay, they'll be at the end. I guess it'd be best to answer any of your questions. The second project that I've kind of gotten involved in lately is an investigation into the cyanobacteria issue in those same ponds. And I reached out to, did some research on the internet and found that the EPA, US EPA Region 1 has a whole program for their region, but they collaborate with what's going on in Region 2, which is where we are. So I reached out to the director there, and I've had several nice conversations with him. He's very interested in supporting me with this project. They would again provide the sample kits. They have a whole package that they send to you, and I also reached out to Chris Gobler, and he said he would also be, he said he was very interested in the project, but also interested in providing some support if necessary. I think at this point, I'd rather just work within the US EPA Region 1 because they've got the whole program set up, and shipping of samples and all that stuff would go right back to their lab. The concept here would be, and this is again speaking with the director at EPA, but also with Chris Gobler, that the cyanobacteria observations and sampling would be best conducted weekly, starting in May and then ending in October 2021. I would like to get started this spring. The sampling and the observations at each pond will be conducted by 2 field personnel. Those would be 2 additional individuals with oversight by myself. Protocols, preservation, and shipping conducted under the US EPA Quality Assurance Project Plan. I've had to write a number of those plans myself, working in the environmental business. They're called a QAP. And that's how we would be processing samples under their protocols. And then the health and safety protocols, also using health and safety plan provided by US EPA Region 1, and they call those HASPs. Those are super fun terms as well. Okay, so what would I like from you guys would be some form of at least intellectual approval of the 2 projects. To make, basically make you guys aware that I'd like to do this. It would be good if I had a letter of introduction from either the town trustees or the town board that says, we know who this guy is, and we're going to let him go take couple of kids, and we're going to go out and take some samples for the ponds. When I was out the other day collecting with the kids for the fish tracker project, it was on the mill pond, and I accessed it from the town property along from the side road, and there were houses on both sides of me, and I was thinking, if I'm out there tromping in the woods with some other people might be a little nervous. So if I could get a letter of introduction, just saying that, you guys are supporting this. This one's a little off base, but when you think about looking for cyanobacteria, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to see whether something is happening on the pond just by going to wherever we can see the pond. So I'm thinking the best thing to do would be to have a kayak to be able to, at least once a week, paddle around and take a look. And I was thinking maybe the town could provide a kayak for this purpose through maybe parks and recreation or whatever. But I'm also working on my FAA license to fly commercially fly a drone. And that would be a great tool to use in the future for at least being able to monitor some of the remote areas of these ponds. Maybe some small level of financial support from you guys, that would be appreciated. I mean, if it's just maybe supporting a stipend for someone. Okay, what are the expected outcomes that I have? It'll hopefully begin building a workforce of individuals that will acquire a skill set that would they could bring to their future employers. Having come from the environmental business as well as from education, as an educator, I didn't see in the curriculum, there's not a lot of opportunity for teachers to teach the things that individuals really need to know when they go into the business world. I found that out myself. Even with a master's in geology, there was a lot of stuff I had to learn about working with well drillers and collecting soil samples and putting in monitoring wells. Employers are, if you get a kid that's got some field experience and knows how to handle himself in the field and collecting samples, I think that's a big plus. I'm also working on GIS skill set, and all of this IMAP invasive stuffs will incorporate exposure to these kids, how to use, or at least the value in knowing how to use GIS. So I'm working on that as well. So the projects will provide a baseline of data for future monitoring of these local resources. At least with Fish Tracker, I've got a commitment from Cornell that says, where they said that as long as they continue to get NSF grant money, I could do this seasonally. So we're waiting for the first set of data to come back from the 5 ponds. But as far as they're concerned, they're ready to send out, sample kits again in the spring, and we could do this seasonally for a period of time until we maybe back off on it, and do it annually or whatever makes sense once we have some data to look at. Also help you guys make decisions about the health of the natural resource from these perspectives. And again, as they said earlier in the Surfrider presentation, that certainly this idea of letting people know that there's a potential problem in these ponds that, as far as I understand, are not being monitored for this kind of stuff. And of course, I'm thinking about this as a pilot too, because this isn't kind of my backyard. They could be expanded to include other freshwater resources throughout the town, and in collaboration with surf riders for sure. Okay, so that's what I have to share with you guys. There's my contact information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for the time, and I hope you think this might be a worthwhile thing to pursue.
Well, it probably is a good thing to pursue, but I think maybe the trustees should think about it and weigh in if these are the appropriate ponds. We have concerns like in Wildwood Lake and a couple other places that maybe they might be more productive to work on those.
Yeah, I was thinking of Wildwood Lake myself. I'm glad you brought that up.
Getting a lot of reports about wildwood, about invasive species, not only fish, but mussels and some aquatic growth that's not appropriate for the area, and some possible algae blooms in there. And that's the gem of the Trustee Holdings, and we're very concerned about that lake. So would you be interested in possibly considering that lake instead of one of the other ones?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we could include it if, if that makes sense, because I decided to use these 5 because they're right here, and it's pretty much within the West Hampton Beach School District. But sure, any one of the
Oh,
ponds
okay.
you guys are interested in, this is my first time talking to you guys. So
Were you
Sure.
talking about, was included in that the mill ponds by the old mill in Spionk?
yes,
Okay, do you know that the trustees have an access point there, right?
yeah, Eric, that's along the I don't remember the name of the road, but it's the side road.
Clover Grass Court.
Right.
Right. There's a little
Yeah.
dock too. Okay.
I worked my way through the brush there and got to the pond. I don't know what it's like during the summer, but
Yeah, it has to be cleaned up.
yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So-
let's talk about it amongst ourselves and see, if what the really concerned, the most concerned impact on certain ponds there, and get back to you on it. Okay.
Sure. All right.
Hey,
Very
Mr.
good.
Moser, I
Yes, sir.
appreciate the presentation. You did a great job. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Scott. Thanks.
And
Yes, very interested.
Mr. Moser, you would require a letter of introduction / support for pond access. And the kayak, we don't have anything that we might be able to help with, unfortunately,
Okay.
with the kayak.
Is anything,
Doesn't
is
hurt
anything in
to
the
ask.
impound yard?
Ask.
We wish we did.
We could store it at Bouvier's house.
We could,
I might have some kayaks I could donate to you.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So,
we do have some equipment laying around, not in the impound area, but there's some equipment. I don't know.
oh,
They used to be in the barn. We had jet skis and a couple other things. So,
okay, so maybe we have to take a little look and do a little
Yeah.
ask. The financial support, what sort of financial support did you have in mind?
Well, we just put in a proposal for 20,000 from no, about $500.
Okay. $500. All right, so we'd have to talk about that too.
Something incidental.
So just to be clear, you've already gotten baseline data from the 5 ponds,
No, I have not.
right?
I'm still waiting for the data to come from Cornell. I keep poking them, because the kids are excited. They were excited about the whole project, and
Sure.
they want instant results, but it doesn't happen. So
Right.
you got to pay extra for that.
Right, but perhaps since you're doing this on sort of a volunteer basis, if the 5 that you've already sampled were to be your baseline, and then perhaps once the trustees discuss if it wasn't too much for you to take on another water body or 2 in the general area of the western section of the town.
Sure.
That might be possible.
Sure.
Okay, because we do have the access at Wildwood, which would be great, and there is a situation there for sure.
Great.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Call me on my town phone tomorrow about the kayaks, Mr. Moser.
Sorry, can I interrupt real quick? Is Charles on? Charles, are you there?
Yes.
Can you let Ed Warner in? I think his name is Zoom user.
Got him.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, James. Ed, did you hear any of that?
Yeah, I heard it. I couldn't speak, so I was listening about the $20,000 ask. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like something that's good, and we can utilize it for our, ponds, specifically the western part of the town. We've done very little water quality monitoring, and especially in Wildwood Lake. I mean, I know it's probably one of the deepest and biggest ponds in the town, and has the most fish and has the most public people access to people in their fishing, even though it's very limited. A lot of people do fish it and use it.
Right.
Well, plus you start talking about invasive type species, I think a wildwood, so
Well,
I think that,
there is a clam or mussel that's a freshwater, I believe, clam that was introduced to that pond years ago, and it's become a problem in there. I know a lot of the people go in there, and I don't think there's any regulations as far as certified or uncertified water as far as freshwater bodies go. So I believe that some of the local ethnic groups have been harvesting and eating it. So it would be nice to know the quality of the water, and maybe some of the meat samples of the clams that they're eating, make sure that they're not contaminated with any heavy metals or anything like that, or fecal coliform. So I think it would be good for us to do something like that also.
Do you have that capacity, Mr. Moser?
No, that's the fish tracker sampling. They use a technology called eDNA, and they are targeting these specific invasives of freshwater. So we can't send them a clam and have them analyzed for toxicity. I'm not to say that we can't find somebody to do that if that's a direction you want to go, and I could probably help pull that together. But for these projects, it's basically the fish tracker is collecting a sample of a certain amount of water passing through a filter, and then you take the sample and it goes off to the lab. I have been in touch with them because somebody at LISMA from the IMAP Invasives project was talking about a Blanding's turtle that is apparently an endangered species. And she wanted to know, whether or not Cornell could do the eDNA for that particular species to see if it exists in the water. And so I'm waiting again to hear back from Cornell to see whether they can add that to the samples that we've currently collected, if they haven't analyzed them already. Are any of you guys familiar with the Blanding's turtle and have ever seen them, know about them in our
I've
local?
heard, I don't know what to look.
Apparently they're hard to spot because they're shy and they jump into the water real quick. But that's the cool thing about the eDNA, is that you're not actually, collecting specimen. I mean, my first approach to Quag Wildlife, when I told them I wanted to do this, they said, well, you really can't take samples out of here. You can't take samples of the fish. And I'm like, well, no, that's not what we're doing. So it's just strictly a water sample that gets processed to see if the DNA of that organism is there.
So what are you analyzing, the waste from that organism?
The waste, the body parts, gills, whatever might be shed from that particular organism.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
Interesting.
cool. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds very interesting.
Okay.
I mentioned this to Marty Shea too, and he was not familiar with the process, and so he was pretty excited about getting some return information. So as soon as I have it, I'll let you all know.
That's
Okay.
great.
Right.
So basic through DNA monitoring, you'll know all the types of fish that are in the pond.
All the types of invasives that they're looking for, and there's 7 of them.
so they're gonna
Okay.
specifically just focus on those 7.
Okay.
That's their that's the scope of work that they've outlined for the NSF grant. So if there are other things where they could apply for additional grant money to expand their program, I'm sure they'd be happy to consider that, because they want the program to continue.
So Sean, we have to give him some type of a letter for that way.
Yeah, letter of permission.
Yes. And
Yeah,
we
just to say, hey,
harmless an indemnity agreement from them, and proof of insurance.
Is that something that's
Proof of
possible,
insurance.
Bob?
I missed that. What was?
We will need a hold harmless agreement and indemnity letter in favor of the Board of Trustees, as well as proof of insurance for your program.
Proof of insurance for the
Yeah, proof of insurance.
I mean, if I go to the beach,
Have to
do I
discuss
have
that.
to do that?
Well, it's a
We're
school.
gonna have to discuss that.
School sponsored program.
Because no, I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, this is basically going to town property, and it'd be like going to the beach.
Well, you are allowed to go on town property.
Yes.
I think.
As a freeholder.
Oh,
So you-
he
we're
probably
allowed-
really doesn't need, I mean, I can understand why he would like to get a letter if anybody questions him, but he
Right.
probably really
Well,
doesn't need it.
that,
Yeah.
Scott, we do that when Okinos wants to release a seal. We give
Yes.
them a letter that says they can park on the Trustee Road so they can, out of town people can watch the seal being released. That's a routine thing.
And it's just like the people see the horseshoe crabs up in West Hampton Dunes, right?
Right.
We give
Right.
them a letter to put on their
Right.
dashboard, and we allow them to go out there and to do a survey. So it would be no different than that.
And the aquarium for driving on the beach to do the whale necropsies. And there's and all kinds of other things that we, just to give them some air of legitimacy when people come around and say, what are you taking a cup of water out of the lake for? Yeah.
Yes.
Put it back.
We'll have to discuss. We'll just discuss it with the town attorney.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to discuss, and we'll do that. We'll get back with you.
Okay, thanks.
You
Just one
said-
quick,
go ahead, Ann.
well, just one quick question. One of the invasives that you mentioned was Asian carp. Are Asian carp the same fish that are found in Mill Pond in Watermill? Or is it a different
I heard that
species?
mentioned. I heard the carp mentioned during Chris Gobler's presentation on Sag Pond, and I wasn't sure, but I figured so.
Mhm.
Ed, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay,
The carp that have been in there, there are goldfish that have been introduced in there too. And there are other species in Mill Pond other than the regular, I think, American carp. So we would have to capture a couple of them and get an analysis of exactly what type of fish they are.
Right.
okay. I was just wondering, not to make you travel all over the place.
Mm.
Your contact information is in the office, Mr. Moser?
Mhm,
Okay.
it is. Thanks so much for a great presentation, Mr. Moser, and for your great work with kids.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Take care,
Enjoy the
everybody.
day.
We'll be in
Thank you,
touch.
Mr. Moser.
Thanks. We have to move it along because we have a 5:00 executive session. So next item is Mill Pond mediation.
Charles, there may be a couple people on for that. Steve Abramson, maybe?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, great. Eric, do you want to just describe
Who
the
else?
phone call the other day?
Who else?
Not sure, actually.
Rachel Verno. How about that?
Rachel Verno, yep.
And well,
Yes.
we had a joint phone call with Mr. Abramson and Mr. Verno, a few other people regarding this year's continuing efforts to clean up Mill Pond. And Janice Shearer was on board, and she outlined the new procedures that the local groups would not be applying for the monies from CPF water quality portion of it. Is that it would be the trustees that would be the lead agency on that, since it's owned by the trustees. So we're here to discuss the remediation plans for the upcoming year and to discuss a report that was done by Princeton Hydro on what they suggest for next year's remediation.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, so I'm sitting here actually with Steve Lerner. We thought it would probably be better to do it this way rather than back and forth,
Okay.
as much as we may both have things to say. Just in recap, the town hired, as you know, because the trustees backed it, Princeton Hydro limnology firm to do study and analysis of Mill Pond over the years 2019-20. And they produced an extensive report, which I hope you've all had a chance to read by now. Have you all had a chance to read it, or by now? Anybody who hasn't read it?
Most of it.
And of course, they made a presentation based upon that report to the trustees to reveal everything about it. And they had concluded in that report that the most important thing that we could do in continuation towards remediation was to remove more carp, because carp are responsible for, through their habitual bumbling on the bottom, of resuspending nutrients that are there, and they're responsible for the majority of nutrients that are in the pond and in the water column at the moment. They were able to in their fishing with box nets, which were specific types of nets that were used, to remove about 25% of the carp in the pond. That was determined based on extrapolations from the fisheries survey that they did. They did that electrofishery survey, which categorized and enumerated the number of fish in different areas, different times of day, and identified the population of the different species in the pond. And 94% of the biomass in the pond is carp at this point in time. They've been so prolific there. So what we really would like to accomplish here, because we've had we've had the Princeton Hydro report, which was released in December on the trustees' site, and then the presentation to the trustees in person with Q&A. And then we had a follow-up meeting with Janice Shearer just a week ago to discuss procedures going forward. As we know, in the past, because WQIPP was very new, the 20% carve off of CPF, it was cited there that anybody could make the application. So Mill Pond had made an application for the funding grant for 1920, and of course the trustees gave permission. That was in this kind of a format, which you may recall. But this was an application which I made in January, anticipating that we would be doing that again for the phase in 2021. But and the reason I had to hold off until January is because we needed the report results, which came in late December from Princeton Hydro, as to what the fisheries survey showed. There would be no point in talking about removing a certain quantity of carp without knowing how many carp are in the pond. So that has been pretty well defined for us. And they were able to remove about 25% of the carp population in their efforts. And we would like to propose using a firm to remove at least another 25% of the carp, because that would get us well on the way towards the solution to our problem. In fact, that would bring us down to a manageable population level, supposedly, of carp in the pond, that we might have to, from every couple of years, go in and get some more out, but that we could move on to doing other things like littoral vegetation, planting, perhaps more floating islands, perhaps restocking the largemouth bass that were once the source of recreational fishing by bass fishing clubs here every weekend and no longer happen. And so what we're here today is to try and ask if we can get your approval to remove carp. Now, the one other wrinkle that came in that meeting, last meeting that we had, is that the WQIPP would like to see a 5-year plan. The outline for a 5-year plan has been made by Princeton Hydro in their report for all of the things they touched upon. And so that could very easily be converted into an RFP, which could go out pretty quickly. We have a tight timeline in as much as the WQIPP has not opened up its round for 2021 and won't do so until this month. Until this month of March. It'll be open from March to June. And our goal would be to see that the RFPs went out quickly so that a decision could be made which outfit to use to continue to remove carp this year, and then move forward with the other items that would then be specified, quantified, and priced for a 5-year plan. And in that regard, I know that your time constraints are significant because you have other things to do, but that I have volunteered to assist the trustees with any one of those aspects of putting together the necessary information for RFPs so that we could help speed it up. We have done it before and on our own. And we'll be happy to provide it to you for your edits and for your use so that we can really make sure that we meet a timeline that makes sense here. And so fundamentally, I want to ask, since all the trustees are here, does any of you, after having read the report and having seen that Princeton Hydro says that the number one thing that we could do is to remove carp, does anybody take issue with that idea?
No, I think it's a necessary part of the remediation plan of the pond.
Yeah. So do any of the other trustees have any negative feelings about removing them?
I thought he did a great job with the presentation, that last presentation on the work that they did. I was impressed with the whole thing myself, you know.
Well,
Right.
I just think that you have to go with a smaller size net, so you're getting a smaller fish now. So really, you know.
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to read the proposal that I had dropped off, Eric, but
Yeah.
But the outfit WSB, from whom I got information, they had. Let me back up a minute. Princeton Hydro had to subcontract for the removal of the carp.
Right. No, I'm aware of that this company has a different method, and they use a smaller net size, and they actually do it themselves.
And
that's what's necessary on, you know.
They would be doing it themselves. They would be using 2 box nets, not 1. They would be driving the fish with underwater sound to herd them. They've had good success doing that. And they're confident that they will exceed the numbers that were produced by Princeton Hydro before on their own. Because really, all they were doing was setting the net at night. Steve and I and other people, we went out and we baited those nets every night with 50 pounds of cracked corn, and then they would come in after the 5th night and they would trigger the nets after the fish had been habituated to come to that area. But in between and during the daytime, they weren't doing any other fishing at all. And much as I had wished that they had, but I could not prevail upon them to add additional personnel to do that, even when they were electrofishing here to produce the fishery survey. But the WSB firm really has the lead guys that were at Carp Solutions who trained Princeton Hydro in the first place. They moved over to this other outfit, which is a larger outfit and more capable. And they were going to also do an otolith study that would give you an idea of the age classification of the carp.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, definitely have to be more
really don't want
carp removal. I said I think you definitely have to be more aggressive in the carp removal. Yeah.
Well, then there was a discussion about bringing in the other species of fish that would kind of, you know, balance things out, the hybrid striped bass or whatever. Right.
Ann had mentioned the gizzard shad, and that was a good idea to remove them at the same time too, because as Ann pointed out, they eat kind of the important phytoplankton that we need in a healthy body of water. Mm-hmm. The addition of the sterile striped bass to predate on carp would come down the line in the future. And certainly bears a little bit of investigation yet as to, by you guys, I suppose, as to what has been the experience with those. So my understanding is that they have been used in East Hampton by the trustees there with questionable results. It's something you could probably get your hands on pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is the methodology that was used to catch the carp seems to be pretty efficient. The only one thing that I would recommend is if you were going to do more of that type of fishing, maybe look to the time of year when these fish spawn. Most fish, being a fisherman, I can say this pretty confidently, they conjugate in very close quarters for reproduction. So if you want to take it a step further, we might want to do a little bit of research on the timeline when the carp reproduce in the pond to make the fishing the most efficient. Secondly, I did contact the DEC and asked them about the gizzard shad, because many of the shad species in the coastal waters have restrictions on harvest and limits, and basically the gizzard shad has no restriction on harvest and no limits. So basically, if we were to take those fish and take them out and sell them for a lobster bait or for whatever can be used, because they're not a species that is a food fish, because they're full of bones, that would be all right to do according to the DEC. And I do have a couple phone calls into hatcheries asking about largemouth bass and the possibility of restocking largemouth bass in there. I have not gotten a call back on either one of the phone calls that I made last week.
But one other point that we've touched on before is that the people who would come in here, they would be here for on the pond for 10 consecutive days, and at our selection, I suppose, more or less. But they would be quite happy to train local fishermen in the use of these box nets, so that, and they're not expensive to purchase them. They're $3,500 to rent them, I believe, and $5,000, I believe, to purchase them. The margin of difference being small, and that if you had local fishermen who would be trained to use them, you wouldn't just be able to use them in Mill Pond from year to year, but all of our ponds have a carp problem. So you could really rotate them around and do a local job of getting it in. A good part of the expense here is, unfortunately, in traveling and getting some of these people here. Be much better to spend that with the local guys if you can find the crews that would be available to do this.
Steve, I believe the box nets that were utilized by Princeton Hydrological were similar to the fikes that we use for flounders and perch in the creeks and harbors. I had given some of these nets to a couple of the fishermen, but they did not bait them. That seems to be the key to catching these carp, is if you bait the area, then they conjugate in a large quantity and you can actually catch them. So there are alternative types of nets, I believe, that can be used by the local baymen, but it's getting a couple local baymen that will commit to this, because normally when we go to do this project, it's the time of year when they can make money in the open water and they don't want to commit to it. So, maybe I'll have a conversation with a couple of the baymen who did these projects in the past and see the time of year and their thoughts about doing it, and then reach back to Princeton Hydrological and ask them if that time of year would be appropriate to do the project.
And what do you think about the idea of being able to apply to the Water Quality Improvement Fund with a 5-year program and getting that done in the window that they need between March and June? If we're willing to provide some man hours to you to assist you in doing this.
Oh,
I think it's
heavy lift. I mean, I think this is relatively easy. It has been an ongoing project, and we're going to just expand on it. And if you have monitoring, you have a monitoring component to see how many fish are coming out and show success in it. I think that's what they're looking for.
Right, but it wouldn't be just that number alone, and it wouldn't be just carp fishing over a 5-year period that we would want to do towards remediation. There would still be the other things that you would want to do, like planting the littoral vegetation, and perhaps, depending on the success of the test islands, of doing more of those, and perhaps other aspects too, like the sterile striped carp, if that panned out, and then restocking with largemouth bass, etc.
Sterile striped bass.
If it's broken down into different categories, and they can, if there's a lot of applications and they have to proportion the money out, at least you'll have all the options available, and we can go from there. So let's put all the options on the table. Find out how much it's going to cost for each option, and then present it to them.
Okay, so if I will move ahead and try and put together an outline for you to expand upon or edit for RFPs for all of it, so that we can get it done within the window.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you could send it to Lisa or whoever in our office, so she could send it out to each one of the trustees, so we could look at it and comment and get back on it. I think that would be the best. I know we all have different ideas on how to do this project, and you're putting it together. So send it to us so we can look at it and then comment and get it right back to you. I think that's the best way to do it, Steve.
Right. The only thing we didn't mention, and it's in the report, and there are some of these circulating around there, the January 15 thing that I put together, the proposal, is that the cost for the carp fishing for those 10 days here and the otolith study, et cetera, came in at just under $50,000, just so that you know.
Okay. Well, the language in the enabling legislation for these funds there is determined that this is the correct procedure now that we're going to be following, and there's procurement policies set up by the town controller, and we have to follow them. So it's best to get sort of a working document, and then we'll run it by the procurement officer and see that, and he can touch it up and make it work.
Okay. So the ball's back in our court. We've got our assignment, and we'll get that to you within a couple of weeks so that you can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good step, and working with Princeton Hydrological and their first year study, we have some science to back up what we're doing. I know we had other projects, Foslock and multiple projects on the time I've been on the board, solar bees, and they all really didn't have a good outcome. I feel looking at this, proposal from Princeton and their first year of, research, I think we can get a much better outcome and get a long-term outcome. I think that's the key to Mill Pond, is something that we could do for a long time and keep it going in, different avenues to make a better water quality.
Well, we have had to do some experimentation without question.
Right.
And you can't expect success from right away with anything, because no one has figured out how to solve this problem, which is a national problem in terms of invasive carp and the growth of harmful algae blooms. So this is really a test body of water. We've gone through a couple of things that have only partially worked. This looks like it'll get us to a good step forward. And if we can add some other things that bring Mill Pond back, you'll have a playbook for dealing with the other ponds.
Right.
Well, you really have to, I guess the Foslock, I don't think worked as well as it should have, because you still had a tremendous amount of nutrients coming in. And now that the town has undertaken that massive stormwater abatement project, stopping it at the source helps quite a bit. So now we have to start helping the lake heal itself.
Right. And in the last discussion we had, there was this concept of removing phosphorus with filters of biochar. And it could be that one of the things we should put into this 5-year proposal is to put biochar filters into the stormwater drains on Deerfield Road.
Right. Stop it up there.
Yeah.
Before it works its way down, right?
How far along were they really on those results, though, with that product? How far? I mean, it seemed kind of tentative at the discussion point, though.
I'm sorry. What was that, Scott?
I say that process seemed kind of tentative to me with that approach.
I think you would need a lot of bags of activated charcoal to make a difference in a lake a pond or lake that size. I'm going to be talking to the trustees about a little pilot project on a really isolated little water body that we might be able to figure out how many pounds of activated charcoal it takes to reduce the numbers in that water body. And then we can, extrapolate it to the size of Mill Pond.
That's another lesson that we learned that has to be learned from past attempts on the Mill Pond is you got to have the dosing right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't think on Foslock the dosing was right, combined with, continued, infusion of the problem.
Oh, the
So-
water coming down into that pond, like, rivers of nutrient laden water. And I even was advocating putting the Foslock actually in the swales and to absorb it before it hit the pond.
Right. We really got to make sure we do our homework,
Right.
which is what we're doing. But I really think that, we're moving in the right direction now.
Yep.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Okay.
Just a second. I have a couple concerns. So we're looking at funding that would be hopefully generated from the Water Quality Fund. However, if their window for accepting applications is
6 o'clock.
March until June, there's going to be, I would estimate, some sort of lag time, at least a month or two probably, in order to get an answer from them for a decision about which projects will be accepted. What are we going to do in 2021 to follow up what's been done already in 2018, 2019, and 2020?
We're
Well,
going
this
to have to
You're talking about a 5-year plan, right? You're talking about a 5-year plan. So obviously that if we were going to do this year, we wouldn't have to reapply each time. Every year we'd give them a monitoring report, and then they'd, give us a yes or no if they want to continue. But all the work will have been done already.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is there's sort of two different approaches here. There's something that will need to be done, whether it's carp removal or otherwise, in 2021 to follow up on the past 3 years. And then a 5-year study will also, or a 5-year projected actions will also need to be done.
Yes,
Right.
it would all be part of the 5-year plan, of which
Right.
2021 carp removal is number one.
Right. That's what I'm understanding.
I'm concerned about the funding for 2021 because I don't know when we are going to get funded and what do we do in 2021? Because from what I've read, the carp spawn in the spring and somewhat in the fall. So right when we're applying for this is when the work should be done. So is there anything we can do this spring?
It's tight, no question, it's tight, but I think that we can get it done so that they can do their work in carp removal in June.
Yeah, I think we just have to stay our course here. I think we've got a good plan going. Yeah, I
Right.
think you've done a great job assisting the trustees. And I just think that we need to keep the forward momentum moving here because I really think that you've got, you're finally making some good progress here. I think you just need to keep your foot on the gas.
Is there any money left over from 2020 that we could apply towards 2021 here?
Well, we might be able to tap into that fund there that's realized from the
Violations.
the summonses that the court issued.
That there's a separate environmental fund that they started, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's a separate environmental fund. So
I don't know
we would
what
have to.
But there's a surcharge on anybody that violates trustee ordinances that's put into a special fund for water quality.
Correct.
Yeah, I
So
believe our attorney, Sean Cambridge, could give us a little
he could
bit of
speak
information on that.
to the other assistant town attorney, Christine Scalera. I know she's very familiar with that.
Yeah, there's a Water Quality Protection
so-
Fund. You have to make proposals for projects. They funnel through CPF, and they award that amount of money.
You know what? That's a separate issue, and I think we're not going to resolve that here. We can talk about that offline. I understand what you're saying, but we got a 5 o'clock executive.
we
haven't even gotten to.
Move
we haven't
along.
even gotten permits, and there's one more discussion.
Right.
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and we could talk about that and, internally, but for what these gentlemen have to do, I think they need to stay their course. And we need to do whatever we can to facilitate a good program.
And I think all the board is in agreement to move forward with this project for Steve and the pond. So I think it's just getting it to us to do a quick review, ask any, any questions or answer any questions we have and move it forward to the Water Quality Committee.
Part of the problem is, and I think it has to be said, we've already invested a lot of time and energy and money into this. You want to see it be successful. You need to follow through. You need to, see it through. So I think that there's a lot of merit to that, and that's what we need to do. And they're helping out, and that's great. Let's do what we got to do.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you,
Great
Steve.
day.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
Well,
So real quick on this pier line, I thought that this had been resolved already, that we were going to have the public hearing and all that. What's the problem with this now?
That there hasn't been any, so we just need to get going on that. That's all. Matt Ivins, are you on?
So on Monday's meeting, we set a public hearing to change the pier line in that particular area. I thought, we pretty much all agreed on that it should be changed with the character of the area of the docks, dock.
I mean, it's definitely conversation that's appropriate for public hearing.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think the only discussion here is working with staff and everybody to set an appropriate public hearing date.
Right.
And take it from there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So when would we put this on for public hearing then?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to talk to Lisa and see what's how the meetings shape up, and as far as advertising in the paper and putting on, as soon as possible. Let's get it over with.
Take a look at the size of the forward-moving agendas and see where it's most appropriate.
I believe you need probably 10 days of notice in the paper. So if we put it on for Monday's meeting for discussion, we could put it on a public hearing for the next meeting in March, right?
You got to see how stacked the agenda is,
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. We'll move it along. Okay.
I'll follow up with that with Lisa then. Matt, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, not really. Just if you guys need my help or additional information, let me know.
Okay.
Once the public hearing starts, we'll reach out to you, Matt, all right?
Yeah, whatever. You guys know where I am.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good stuff for the record, for the actual public hearing record.
Okay. Yeah, and if you need more copies of what I gave you, I'll drop them off. I might be up there tomorrow anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we've got that, but that's great, Matt. Thanks.
Okay.
Whose area is that yours area in Sag Harbor Cove?
Yep.
All right, so we'll talk to Lisa, see when the agenda is not so stacked, and then you can submit all that public hearing.
Yeah.
Good with that, Sean?
That works.
Yep.
Sean, that sounds good to you too?
Sean, you go with that?
Yeah, I'm looking at your agenda right now, and it looks like your next meeting is the 15th. I would shoot for April 5 for your public hearing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that
we have
gives you a little
time
bit
to
of time.
draft the resolution for setting that up, and plenty of time to make notice then. Right? So suggest that to Lisa, and then we'll get the appropriate procedures in place to be in compliance with all the regulations.
Well, yeah, we'll talk to her because it's 14 between meetings, so you're talking 10 days, right? So however, to get into papers.
Exactly.
Right, but I think you may already have a full agenda for the prior meeting, so we have to coordinate with Lisa.
So you're saying April 5th looks like it's not too stacked up right now, and it's plenty of time. So something like that works. You don't have pressure on everybody.
Right.
That makes sense. So let's suggest that.
Okay. Okay, let's go into general permits.
Thanks,
Yes.
Matt.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Matt.
Got a very important meeting in a little while. So
Yes, sir.
James Courier. First one on the agenda is for me for Joseph Sinopoli, 30 Ringneck Road, Remsenburg. This is probably the third time in my career as trustee that I've looked at this property.
I hear that.
Yeah. As the bulkheads are rotting out. Okay. Well, this person here wants to put on 2 Spinner X2 personal watercraft lifts installed on an existing bulkhead and a 2-inch layer of pea gravel over the existing soil. Minor thing, 2 waterproof watercraft lifts. It's appropriate in this area. keeps them out of the water.
They can't be left in the water because the electrolysis will just eat the whole
Right.
entire inner part of the jet ski up, the engine and everything.
I know about that. You better be washing those every time.
Yes.
So it's all open stretch. It's on the Spionk River there on Ringneck Road. Large properties. It's not going to be any visual impact. They have shrubs on, trees on each side. They're right up against the dock. So,
And there's adequate water there, so that should be good to go.
yes. So I'd like to move this along.
All right. So we're gonna put an A over there, huh?
Yep. Second one is, let's see. We have the Lucille Bronson Irrevocable Trust, 442 Dune Road, but that's
Yeah.
Okay.
Gina wants to hold that one. She sent the
right. So, Gina said this because the DEC is saying that they want the dock put in a different place. Yet, and I'll say it again, the DEC is not supposed to be reviewing these things because they don't have permission of the property owner, i.e. trustees.
So we're holding this then?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, Sean? About the DEC?
So that your next.
That you need an owner's endorsement in order to make an application before the DEC, and they're entertaining applications on trustee bottom without the owner's endorsement. So has there been any news on that about why they are still doing that?
Well, we've discussed it. We could definitely discuss it offline. Nearly all DEC permits are on somebody else's property. They're a regulatory agency. So, we really have to get into, kind of the nitty gritty of it and set a conference with them to discuss
Yeah,
that.
definitely, because that right in the beginning of their application, it says you need the permission of the property owner to make an application.
We're gonna have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
When it gets settled in and have some policy decisions and protocols in place so that we're all on the same page.
Right. Okay, Flanders, 187 Evergreen Avenue in Flanders, Joseph and Melissa Orlia.
Is Jeffrey here? Jeffrey Pantanjo? I might have butchered that. Sorry, Jeffrey.
No, I think you're okay.
That's right.
Is he here?
He's coming.
Good.
Oh, great. Thanks, Charles.
Like, I got one with him too.
Okay. As soon as he's on, he can describe the project.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello. Hey, there you are. I'm just trying to figure this out. It just closed on me. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. So you want to describe the project down there on 187 Evergreen?
Yes, absolutely. So this project, let me just open up the file. The project includes the removal and replacement of the existing bulkhead, same exact location as the existing. It's really replacing the deteriorating wood bulkhead with a new vinyl bulkhead. Also going to raise the elevation 8 inches above the existing for the top cap elevation. Wrong job. Never mind. Hold on. That's the next one. Let me open up 187 now. Sorry about that. 187. Remove and replace existing bulkhead. Also, it is for the removal and
that large platform there, right?
Dock. There's no raise in elevation on this one, so the exact same elevation for the top cap height. The existing bulkhead's pretty tall, so we don't have to worry about a. Oh, you have it on the screen. I should just be looking at your screen.
It just came up.
All right, so the bulkhead, remove and replace, doing a return on the one side, on the, the west side. On the east side, it's an existing vinyl bulkhead, I believe town owned, so we're going to tie right into that existing existing bulkhead with the new vinyl corner piece. The existing pier section, dock section, that is, I believe it's 10 by 14 around size-wise. Removing that in its entirety, and
That's good.
installing a typical 4-foot wide by 25-foot long fixed dock, all greenheart timber and piles, and the whole entire structure will be not untreated wood, with a 30-inch wide by 14-foot aluminum ramp and a 6 by 20 floating dock, supported with, I'm using 4 10-inch diameter greenheart piles just to protect the lateral movement of the dock in that location. Just to add stability. I do have, as you see in the file, the DEC permit has been approved, and it's everything really on their end meets the specific criteria for water depths, which is the 30 inches of water at low tide, and their pier line and their requirements to adjacent properties.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, was the depth at the inside of the float.
Yeah, inside the float is 30 inches, 2.5 feet. And as you see on the proposed, I did provide in the file a, actually we're way longer than actually minimum. We're actually at 5 foot of water depth out in that location. If you look on the proposed plan, it's a -5 for pretty much the entire floating dock.
So do you need to be
pulled
that,
back.
do you need to be that far?
That was what we were looking to do.
What's our regulations say?
30-inch on the inside terminus of the floating dock.
He's got to pull it back now.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the distance to the other side there,
Oh,
to the other shoreline?
You got plenty
So-
of room.
Hundreds of feet.
Oh, okay.
1,000 feet or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell where in Peconic River it was.
Yeah,
All right.
the reason why I brought it out to this location is because of the adjacent one right next to it. They're out that far, as you just saw on that plan that you had. So kind of match the distance out into the water body to be equal with the neighbors. Just in case, like you see if that neighbor has, he ever wants to come back for another application to, I see he's 4 jet ski floats, if that's a permissible item on.
That's not permissible.
No.
Never mind, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, your guy too's bringing himself into conformity there. So
Yes.
Yep.
We're working.
We prefer, Jeffrey, that our rules state in the blue book that the inside edge of the float, when you hit 2.5 feet of water, that's the distance that we go out. So if you could roll this back in,
Okay.
then probably we would be able to move forward with it, right, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much at the distance out as the existing dock, because right about there is a -3.2.
yeah.
So I'll discuss it with my client, and we'll make any amendments as required.
Yeah,
Okay.
and one quick question, the easterly property line, the extended property line, how far off is that dock on that property, the extended property line, 10 feet?
Please hold, I'll give you an exact, if I extend out that property line,
Yes.
No.
straight out, that's the one on Evergreen Road. And if I do a distance from the corner of the floating dock, which will be the northernmost corner, perpendicular to that extended property line, it's 25.6 feet.
All right, that's good.
He's fine.
Yes.
Okay, just to make some modifications to that.
Sure.
It's on hold?
No.
Yeah.
Are you not holding it?
The modifications in before the meeting there, we can put it on for the meeting.
No, I thought he was going back to his client.
Yeah,
Well,
I want to discuss it with my client.
All right, if he says okay, then and you get and he says okay, and you get the plans in, let's put it on for Monday. We're gonna get a backlog here when things start breaking.
So it could always be pulled off if he doesn't get, well, actually, he's gonna need an updated cover sheet. So the bottom line is if he gets the updated cover sheet, it can go. And if he doesn't, then it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not trying to rush things through. I'm just trying to clear up
I got you.
The eventual crush that's going to come as soon as this COVID thing starts lightening up.
So we're, just to be clear, we're going to advance pending new cover sheet and plans.
Yes.
This is going to the following meeting, not Monday's meeting.
Right, correct.
Right.
It would go.
Yeah.
So he's got some time. So that's what he needs to do.
It's going to the 15th, right? Or
Um,
17th?
Whatever that day is, I don't have a calendar in front.
17th, I think.
Hold on.
Yeah,
The
March
10th.
March 15th.
Well,
March 15th.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Jeffrey, if you stay on.
Yep.
We have another one, right?
Yeah, he's got one of mine, and I got to go over with him.
Cool.
But when Eric's finished, I'll jump
Yeah,
on. And we'll
I'm
talk
done.
about-
I'm
You done?
done. Scott.
So
Yep.
you've got 15 Marlin,
Yes.
right? So 15 Marlin, you want to put that one up?
Yeah, I'm working on it. What do you want to see? The
Well, you got on here, remove and replace 75 linear feet of existing bulkhead with new vinyl in same location as existing, and all timer used shall be untreated green heart. But when I dissect your plans, you're also indicating that you're gonna replace a deck.
Yes, there's a 6 foot wide, well, a little bit different, a little bit wider than 6 foot with a little offshoot on the northern side as shown on that, well, you can't see
Yeah,
where
but-
my cursor is on the screen, but
Yeah, I know. You got a 75 foot by 4 foot wide Ipe deck land with a proposed bulkhead.
yeah,
But you need to make sure when you make a submission that all your activities need to be in this description of work.
gotcha.
You're putting down one thing, and then when we go through your plan, we're finding all these other things.
Okay,
And when the people in the office are typing out, permits and approvals, then, they don't want to go hunting through the whole thing. That's not how it works. You need to make sure that your cover sheet matches exactly what you're asking for in the plans, because when we go through them and we're not going to make the amendments to your cover sheet, because you need to, you know what I mean? You need to do that.
yes,
All right.
understood. Yeah, I can get you a revised cover sheet.
You're gonna have to, okay? Now you're not taking, you made reference to, I don't see anywhere, where are you showing? I'm looking, I was there this morning, I took a look at this, and you're talking about elevation on the next, what are you doing with elevation?
Raising it 8 inches. And I actually had the DEC comments. They just gave me a comment letter. I addressed that on 2 or 3 days ago. They had the same question about the existing deck. I labeled the existing deck to be removed, and I labeled the new 75 by 4 foot wide Ipe boardwalk, as they wanted to call it, on the plan and on the typical section. And I also gave them some offset dimensions from the corner of the house to where the bulkhead is going to be placed.
Right, but I'm right, and again, it's there's a note here: remove existing bulkhead structure in its entirety, install new bulkhead in the exact same position as existing with raised height of 8 inches above existing top cap. But just do everybody a favor in the future, please, and then amend this. You need to clearly indicate that for everybody, so that we know and that everybody knows. Now.
Sure.
Your adjoining properties, you're trying to match up to the adjoining properties there,
Correct.
right? James, can you zoom in to show the board?
yeah, let me flip it here.
I mean, you got to be, okay, so you can see there's a differential there between this property and that property. So you want to match that property? Is that what you want to do, Jeff?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Match all the adjacent properties.
I mean, you got to, I get it. Sometimes you have to do this and you want to match. You just have to make sure this all works out with the grade of that house, because you don't have a huge amount of area between the waterway and where the house is. So with raising stuff and getting this grade right, you're not bringing in fill or anything like that. So you got to make this whole thing work. Got a tight spot.
That's another amendment that I will make when I'll send you in revised plans with a revised front page project description. And my apologies for not being so thorough on the last one. We are modifying it to include bringing in 10 yards of clean sand from upland sources behind the new deck for the sole purpose of the raise in the grade to level off the back of the property. And that's identified on my typical section.
Okay.
And what about the buffer behind the the 4 feet. Because there's replacing the bulkhead.
Yeah, I know. There's not addressing that either.
So
you
Jeffrey, we'd
just-
like a native plant vegetated buffer
Okay.
that's no mow, no irrigate, and not non-fertilized.
Okay. What is the width of that buffer?
It would be
Well, if you're
6
going
feet.
for 4 feet, at least another 6 feet, because we have, 10 foot. So if you can make up the difference, and you'll see some of the other properties that are on those canals that they
Right.
followed similar ones that have come in, they followed similar protocols where, you got your thing, you've got your deck, but we want to buffer the waterway from the lawn and whatnot. So if you can,
Absolutely. Yeah, we could do 6 foot. We'll do a pea gravel, or we'll do a mulch, or even they could use beach
Not-
sand.
not-
Like,
No,
yeah, sand or pea gravel, or
Vegetated-
better to go with beach grass or something, like that is going to be better. I know what our blue book says, but if you could talk to a client and see if they can design something, push it back a little bit. You could take a look at some of the other projects that are there, on the canal and across the canal, other people that have done a really nice job with that. If you could
Okay.
just kind of match up.
So it has to be vegetated with some sort of beach grass then? Is that what you're looking
It
for?
would look better. It would work better if it
Okay.
was. I mean, then if they could do something like that and just push it back.
Right.
native vegetation helps because the roots of that vegetation absorb the runoff from the
Right.
lawn.
Yeah, I really like Cape America beach grass. It has a great root structure. It does well in that condition too. So let me discuss it with them to see if they have any specific options that they like.
It'll help that will, like you say, a great root structure. So if we do get a substantial surge, that neighborhood is subject to, substantial flooding when you have major storm events. And that will kind of help them out behind that walkway and help stabilize that area. So it would work out for them. There would be dividends that would be paid off on something like that. And it's not a gigantic buffer.
Right.
So 6 feet would be fine. So if you can clean that up and send a new cover sheet over there, listing all of unless anybody else on the board has other issues or concerns relative to this.
No.
So we're gonna advance to add the deck information, the elevation change, and the buffer to
Buffer,
both the plans and the cover sheet.
And he's got fill coming in. He's got clean fill coming in
Yes.
to make the grade work
Yeah, I'll
out.
add that as well.
10 yards, and that way it's cleaned up.
Great. And that's gonna be the same date, March 15th.
Yeah, push it. That way he's got time to do his work because he's got some work to do.
Yep.
Would the
Right.
board be inclined to hold it over till the March 10 work session to get a complete application before advancing it?
We could do that if you want. That's fine.
That's a little cleaner.
I think that would be prudent.
That's fine with me. Hope March 10th, have it in, and then March 10th, the board will have another discussion. Make sure they've checked every box, and you could represent it. And
Just to make sure
we
you
can
don't have
move
to
it.
end on the floor.
yeah, because there's a lot of stuff there. So why don't you do it that
Yeah,
way?
absolutely.
Take pressure
I'll
off.
work on them right now. I'll get them out in the mail tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
All right. Let's go to 20 Tarpon.
Yeah.
Kevin here?
Charles, is Kevin
Kevin
Springer?
Springer?
Taking now. He's coming.
Good.
Put your video on. There you go.
Trying.
You got it.
How's everybody doing?
Hello, how are you?
Doing okay.
So I'm not sure if some of you would probably be familiar with this. This was semi-approved last time with a different owner. But then when we came to the inspection, it was determined that it did not actually meet what was approved. And since then, the previous owner sold to the Martini and Stocco. And so now we're trying to get legalized. It's actually, it's a little bit better than what it was. It's because the open planters are bigger than what was originally allowed. It's just that they didn't meet the original application. So I don't know what questions you have for me.
You know what? I think, Kev, I think go back to that. Go back a bit here. There's confusion here, and I think that we need to clean up the verbiage to eliminate the confusion. I think that's what's going on because the prior permit that we issued to Yope Day Court,
yes,
was to remove the existing 12 by 75 dock and reconstruct with an 8 by 50 open grate using untreated material with buffer area that will consist of clean sand and approved plantings. That's what we approved.
Yes.
Right. So, so we're not really looking to legalize a 12 by 75 or whatever this thing is. We're really looking to, because that's really not what's there. It's if you look at the pictures, there's all nice plantings on either side.
So I think what we need to do is what he was supposed to do was pull up this wood deck, which he did not do.
Right.
Obviously, you can see that in the picture. And then this grass area, which is the beach grass, that was actually, this is bigger than what was approved the last time. It's actually longer. I mean, I can change the verbiage to whatever we need to do.
Well, because it's not a 12 by 75. That's not what's there. Okay, so if we legalize that, that's really not a representation of what's there. I mean, this is wood here that the lights fixtures are popping out of. It's not, it's not really looking to me like what?
It's not, no, the entire, I see what you're saying. The entire length of the dock itself is 12 by 75.
Right.
But that's not how much actual decking we have.
Right.
That's what you're saying, correct?
I'm just saying, I think what we need to do is just,
Are there?
clean the verbiage up so we're representing, look, we're going to have this much buffer area. This is going to be deck. This is buffer area. These are the dimensions. Because I think the 12 by 75 it kind of throws everybody off.
No, it's a little misleading. I was basically using that from the old one.
Right, but the old one was saying we were removing that, which makes it even more confusing. That's why I'm like, you know what? I think for the
Are there plans?
Just for the board perspective, I think we need to definitely clean that up. So I mean, you want to.
So we're gonna.
We're not advancing things to this Monday's meeting, so you have time. There's time here. It's not like an
I'm gonna be out
urgency.
of town next week anyway, so that works out actually well.
Why don't we put it on hold, and then this gives you time to look at this and figure out, what, and take a look at the past permit that we did issue when we worked on this, and then figure out. And he's fixing. I spoke to the gentleman this morning.
Yeah, he told me.
It's rotten, he's putting little patches in there and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you want to walk on there?" And I said, "I don't think you should walk on there." You know what I mean? It's rotten. It's bad. You're gonna get hurt. So you got to do something. But
well, what I'll do is I'm gonna break it down into the actual size of the planters and then the actual amount of actual physical decking that we have, and that should,
Yeah, you would give us a plan showing that.
Dimensions.
That's pretty simple.
Right, and then make it match the cover sheet, and then it'll be simple.
I can do that.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Beautiful. And you know what, Kevin, you got time because we're like we said, we're not pushing things right to the immediate Monday.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're taking pressure off the staff because it does take a bit to get it all going. So you have a little time. So
that's good because I'm not going to be here next week. So
have fun.
It's okay.
Wherever you're going.
Okay.
It's all right.
We're gonna hold this one, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, give them some time. This way we don't have any misunderstandings.
All right, so I'll get it in the file in about 2 weeks. And then, from there, we'll go over the verbiage, make sure it looks okay. And then from there, we'll just put it on to whatever works.
All right,
All right?
Great.
great.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
Kevin.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Have fun in your voyage.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you.
Okay.
Next one I have is Hyde Park 6 LLC, 6 Shinnecock Road. I do want to correct, it's not in East Quogue, it's in Quogue. Okay, so this
Right.
next one is in Quogue.
Okay.
Land use is
Glenn.
There's no Glenn.
anybody here from land use?
It's Lauren and Charles Bowman.
Awesome.
Okay.
Charles Bowman? Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is Charles here?
You hear me?
Yes, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, good, good.
Good.
Your project, reconstruct existing bulkhead, adding a new return at the south end, 178 feet of existing bulkhead proposed to be reconstructed in place utilizing vinyl sheathing, 16-foot return at the south end, 194 plus or minus total, 4-foot wide walk proposed on the landward side of the bulkhead where depicted on the project plans, and a 10-foot wide non-turf, non-fertilization buffer proposed landward of the bulkhead. Any non-structural disturbed areas within the 10-foot buffer proposed to be planted with beach grass, 12 inches on center. Everything's going to be with non-treated lumber.
I think you said it all, Scott. It's pretty simple. The property was sold. This has been in disrepair for quite some time. So
Now elevation wise, you're looking to match the neighbor to the south of you, or you're going to leave it alone?
no, we're going to keep it at the same elevation. Yeah, it's
You are. Okay. I mean, it's a standard, you know, it's, you know, it has to be done. I was down there today. I took a look at it.
Looks good.
Yeah, it needs to be done. It's a mess.
yeah, very simple. And the new owner is very willing to put in the 10-foot buffer, which we told them they had to do.
That's
All right.
great. Thank you. That's super important.
All right. So I
Do you
think
have
that one,
pictures? Do you have pictures, James?
yeah, there's pictures there. Yeah, he's got pictures. There you go. You could see yeah. Yep.
The decking is not as good as it looks.
No, it's not. I was there. I was a little leery of walking on that as well today. So it's, you know, it's due, it's time, you know?
Okay.
Okay, so that one, you can advance.
Okay.
Now you have another one here with me, right?
Yeah, and that one, Scott, you know, if you can pull it up, it's really just a question. The depths don't meet your requirements.
No, no, they're way off.
So my question is, and you can put it on hold, we can withdraw it.
Let's let the board know what it is first before we go. See that residential dock facility connecting to the existing stairs, 4x82 open grade catwalk proposed leading to a 3x15 seasonal ramp with a 6x20 seasonal float. Proposed to be elevated 4 feet over MHW, supported by 18 8-inch diameter piles. Float proposed to be chalked 18. The thing is, when you look at the depth soundings, there's like no water there.
Yeah,
There's no water.
Yeah, right. My question, Scott, is really, if he just wanted to put a fixed pier to be able to, you know, launch a kayak or canoe or something like that, you know, would the board consider, you know, a shortened fixed pier, no float, just for water access?
We did that. We did
Yeah.
that in Remsenburg, Scott. Similar situation, I think.
Yeah, I would just go to Blue Book go to Blue Book protocols.
The regulations
Yeah.
say that if you can't meet the depth, it comes back to 25 feet with, a staircase, or you could put a mooring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The owner was adamant. I told him we'd submit it, but there was not a chance. And
Right. Well,
so now I can go back to him and say, this is the best we can do.
right. And you could refer to the Blue Book regulation. That's why, that's
yeah,
why we
no.
have it.
Well,
Right.
I already have, but some people are obstinate.
Well, we
Hey,
can't,
let me interrupt for a second. Scott, can you run the rest of the meeting? I got to talk to our council about moving the meeting, the exec session a little bit longer.
okay. All right. That's fine. You know what? The board, I mean, you've been doing this and you do a great job at it. The board has the Blue Book regulations and it works both ways. So,
I
if
get
he's,
it.
right,
Absolutely.
he's entitled to have it, then we'll work with it. You fully are aware of the type of material,
Yep.
and if the board, you agree with that, I mean, you'll have to,
Scott, is this 48 Corwin Lane?
no, it's 8.
8 Corwin Lane.
8 Corwin Lane.
8. James can show you. There's no water, it's, I could understand them wanting to get out to the water for kayak or whatever, but
It's 300 feet. There's not 18
There's no
inches of
water.
water there.
would you do it? Would you do a seasonal type thing? Chuck, you do a seasonal thing?
We could, I mean, we've done that, not so much with you guys, but Brookhaven, we have fixed piers that go in seasonally and get taken out, seasonally too.
That would really be appropriate there with the ice.
Ice, that's what I was gonna say with ice. It probably apply for the seasonal thing, we'll go with the Blue Book regulation length and
That would work, Scott.
submit a new application. You want me to put it on hold until you're ready?
Oh,
or-
absolutely. Yeah, please put it on hold. And,
Okay,
let me talk to the owner.
okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, buddy. Trustee Warner is
Yes.
next. Chuck, you might as well stay right there.
I'm right here. I'm not pushing any more buttons because I always lose you guys.
Stay right there. You got Smith Creek 124 LLC for you.
Yes, this is the old Scuppnavish's boat marina.
This is, I know really well. I keep our workboat there, have for years. Tony, which from Hampton Marine, bought the place and is doing a bang up job, restoring the marina and bulkheading and parking areas and drainage and, wash areas. And this is just part of that, that he is going to be replacing some of the floats and fingers, which we listed in the cover sheet there. He did want me to point out that each of the floats, you'll see there's a ramp going to the south and to the north, but there will be, which isn't shown on the plans, and I'm going to have to get in an amended plan, is going to have a little 4x4 platform. And talking to him yesterday, and the floats, the main floats, are not going to extend as they're shown. They're going to stop, under the ramp. They're not going to go all the way through. But other than that, I think our office sent in also an aerial view, GIS, that we show the extent of the adjacent piers. I don't think we're going to be encroaching upon that area. It's tight, it's tight as it is, but it's always been that way. And
you're not going any further seaward with any of the vessels or anything.
No,
and it's outside of it's right on the edge of the channel. So there's still a wide navigable channel, which would allow boats to, go past there.
And I'll tell you, just down at that end, everybody just creeps along.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. No one goes speeding down the channel. That's for sure.
No, it's a doable project. And it's cleaning up what is there now and making it much easier for people to get on and off a boat. So I applaud him for taking this step and cleaning the whole area up. So it's a good project.
Well, I don't tell you, could have seen the amount of debris and garbage that was taken out of the site when Tony came in. So anyway, he's done a great job.
Yep.
And
So
it's
if no
just the float. It's just the floats at this point, not the bulkhead.
Right. Well, a lot of the bulkhead's been replaced already.
There's a permit for a lot of the bulkhead to be replaced. I don't know what stage it's at, but there was a permit from our office to replace that bulkhead a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and quite a bit of it was done by John Ritter when Hampton Boat Works owned it.
Yep.
I think it's all been done.
Okay.
This is the next, and he also put a gravel area behind the bulkhead and drainage chambers, and so to keep the runoff from going into the creek. And truly, he's put a lot of money into cleaning it up.
Yeah, all of his sites are really state of the art. With catch vessels for washing the boats. They are removing that one lift and filling it in. I think it's a really good project. So no one has any concerns or questions. I'd like to move it forward.
Well, you're going to make changes, right?
Oh, very minor changes.
All right.
Well,
so,
as long as we need the change in the cover sheet and the plans, so we can move it on for the next meeting. All right.
I'll get them to you probably tomorrow.
So we'll advance that to the March 15th meeting.
Sounds good, James.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right.
Yep.
Trustee Welker.
Yep, Stephen and Nancy Mitchell, 180 Mid-Ocean Drive. This was an InterScience. There's probably nobody here from InterScience because this was just a legal situation where there were two docks on the property. And Sean, do you want to chime in on this? We received the easement for the second dock and everything is in line, right, Sean?
Yeah, we did review it. There was an easement on the property itself that travels with the property. So it was a condition that went with this property. So although it's atypical, it was a permitted use for the property.
So other than that, we had discussed everything at the last work session and this was the only question. So if nobody has any other questions, I'd like to move this forward.
I'm good.
That's fine.
Okay. So Bill, you're okay with it as well?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. So if we could please move that forward, that'd be
That's
great.
fine. And you know what? That concludes the agenda, and we do have a scheduled executive session for the purposes of discussing litigation. It's supposed to start at 5 p.m. So if nobody has anything further, I think what we should do is adjourn and go into that executive session. Is anybody?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so
I can push off my updates to Monday.
okay. Unless they're imperative, then we'll take another 5-10 minutes.
Nope,
Is it going to
it's
be
fine.
long?
It's fine.
No, well, you can,
All right.
is it a short update, Ann? Because you can,
I'll know more on
Another
Monday.
meeting at 6.
what's that?
I have
It's
another
really
meeting
quick.
at 6.
It's really
You're gonna
quick,
be short?
Charles. Okay.
Yeah.
For today, oops, sorry, Charles. For today, all I'll say is Mecox and SAG are both open, and we'll go from there.
All right. Is that it?
They were open naturally too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mother Nature has a way of, making decisions that may not,
All right.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so I would like to make a motion to adjourn this work session and go into executive session for the purposes of discussing confidential litigation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.